Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I've got a cute little St. Patrick's Day card to show you. We're also going to do a little bit of stenciling, and then we're going to give that stencil some dimension. So let's take a look at the stamps. This is the Sham-rock Set from Art Impressions, and you can see all these cute little images. It even has a little mug of beer, a little hat, the little pot of gold we're going to use today, and the shamrocks as well, and then a couple of those sentiments. But those others would be adorable as well. So I'm going to place my Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock in my Mini Misty, and then I've got some VersaFine Onyx black ink, and I'll go ahead and stamp these. I'm just going to stamp that one more time. I thought that corner looked like it needed a little bit more ink. So I stamped some extras of the little 4-leaf clovers. And then I'm going to color this little pot with light gray and gray. And I'll start with that lighter gray and then add some shadows. And I did keep coming back into this and darkening it up. I didn't want it to be black, but I did want it to have quite a bit of shadow to it. So I'm going to keep blending that until I get just the look that I'm going for. So I'm going to show you that stenciling with a really pretty stencil from Fawn that's really kind of interesting. It's in 2 parts. So we'll stencil 3 of the colors and then we'll go back and stencil the other 3. So it's really kind of fun. And it has other designs on it as well. And then we're going to cut that out and pop it up. Also, I want to show you a background that we're going to create using some Distress Oxide inks. And I wanted to give it kind of a after rainy sky kind of a look. So we'll use a couple of different Distress Oxides to create that look. Now I've got fluorescent yellow, and I thought the fluorescent yellow would kind of brighten it up a little bit. And then I used the yellow to just tone that down just a tad. Now I will come back in with a gold pen and then a little bit of sparkle ink over the top, some of the Wink of Stella. So now for the 4-leaf clovers, I'm going to use 3 colors. We'll be using May Green, Green, and Yellow. And I'm going to kind of darken up that center and then pull that green, that lighter green out towards the edges. But then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to the tips of each of the petals. And I always find that that just brightens it up, adds a little highlight for me, and it's really easy to do. So I did all of those the exact same way. Now with my gold Signo Gel Pen, I'm going to add some gold to those little handles. And then I did add a little bit of gold, as I mentioned before, to each of these little gold coins. I'll cut these out. There are no coordinating dies for this set, so I'm going to use my detail scissors, and I'm actually going to follow the lines as best I can. So I cut the rest of those off camera, and now we're going to grab that second largest rectangle from the Rectangle A2 double stitch dies from Art Impressions, and I'm going to run 2 of those through the die cutting machine, and I've got some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. So we're going to grab one of those panels we die cut, and then with the Distress Oxide ink in the tumbled glass, I'm going to get this background started. Now what I want to do is shake that really well. So I shook that up off camera, so you want to shake it really well till that ink is nicely blended. I've got a craft mat down on my table just so you can see what I'm doing. You could certainly use your glass mat. And then face down, I'm going to pick up some of that ink onto my cardstock. So I've just spritzed it directly on my craft mat, and then I'm just patting this down into that ink, and I'm going to pick up some of the color. And I do like the light and dark areas. We are going to be adding a second color to this though. But first I want to grab my Distress sprayer. This just has water in it, and I'm going to spritz this panel just to blend those colors a little bit more. Now for the next color, I'm going to show you kind of the opposite way that we're going to do this. We're going to add the water after we apply the ink to the craft mat. So we'll do 2 different ways. So this way we applied the ink and then we spritzed it with water, and then we're heat setting that with our heat tool. And then with the Uncharted Mariner, we're going to add a little bit more color. So I'm not going to put as much on my craft mat, just a few little spritzes of that. You do want to make sure you clean off the nozzles of these before you put them away, so I'm just wiping those down. And now this time I'm going to apply the water onto the craft mat. To start with, I will be applying some water to the cardstock as well, but I'm going to just mute that color down just a little bit, make it a little bit softer and more blendable, and I'm not picking it all up, I'm just picking up a few little random areas of it. I can blot off the card, and I can blot off any excess that I don't really want there. So I started heat setting this, and then I did decide to blend that upper right hand corner just a little bit more. I thought it was kind of dark in just that one spot, but I do want open areas of white, because again, I want this to kind of be like the sky after a rainstorm. So you can see that I'm just blotting up a little bit with my paper towel, and then I've got my heat set tool, and this is a nice low setting, so it dries it nice and slow. You can see I didn't get a lot of curling, but just to be safe, I'm going to put a couple heavy objects on that, a couple of my misties, and let that sit flat for a little while we work on our stenciling. So I've got the corner rainbow stencils from Fawn. This is a 2-part stencil set, and you can see you get a couple different rainbows, and then you get a sun as well. We're going to use that rainbow in the lower right hand corner, and I'm just going to position this up on my cardstock just a little bit. So I've placed this on my Wendy Vecchi Make Art station. This is just a magnetic station that I'm using. And then I'm going to place that rainbow up a little bit, maybe about an inch up on that panel. And then I'll use those magnets to hold it down, and we'll start off with the Candied apple. So I'm going to take a small blending brush. Now you could certainly mask off those other open areas if you feel like you might get ink down in there. I wasn't really worried about that with this smaller brush. I found it really easy to stay within that top opening. But again, you could just put some post-it tape there or some masking tape there if you were worried about that. So once I ink that up with the Candied apple, I am just going to quickly kind of wipe away any excess. I don't want to blend down into the next color. So do keep in mind we're doing every other color. So red, orange, yellow. So we're going to do the yellow next. And so that'll be our third color. So let's go ahead and blend that out quickly. And again, you can see that I'm not really getting close to that other area, so I'm not worried about picking up any of that color. And then let's do the last one, which would be red, orange, yellow, green, blue. So we want blue, and I'm going to use the broken china. And I did decide to wipe that yellow off just a little bit there, just to make sure it didn't move down into the blue. And now you can see we have a nice start to our rainbow. What's fun about this stencil is you could stop right there if you wanted to. You don't have to do all of these sections of the stencil. So just have some fun with that. Now let's do the other two colors that are remaining. So we need orange to start off with, and I'm going to use the carved pumpkin. And again, I'll do some quick blending. We're going to add a lot of interest to this rainbow. And like I said, what we're going to do is actually cut this out and pop it up, which I don't know if I've done that before, and it's really going to add a lot of dimension to our card. So it was kind of fun just to finish stenciling this and then pop it up on the card. But you certainly don't have to do that. I'm grabbing the Mowed Lawn for my next color, but you could just stencil this on your background. This panel, just stencil this on, and then just add a little bit of blue inks to the background. So you have a couple different ways of doing this, but I thought this would add a lot of dimension and interest to our card. Now, to add a little bit more to this rainbow, I'm going to spritz a little bit of water down onto my Wendy Vecchi Make Art station. I'm using a small paintbrush, and I'm going to spatter that rainbow. That's going to also give it the look of like it just finished raining. You know, there's a little bit of that dewiness in the sky. And then I'm going to just tap off that excess with a paper towel. Now, if there's a few areas you didn't hit, I just like to take my brush and kind of put that water where I want it to be and then blot it up. So you do have that option as well. So you can play around with that until you get the look you want. Let's go back to that heat tool and heat set this really quickly. And then I'm using my detail scissors and I'm going to cut this out. So I'm going to follow the edges of this rainbow. But I am going to leave the bottom part of the rainbow there because I'm going to line this up on my card. You don't have to do this. You could just cut this out completely. But I decided, you can see here, I decided to leave that little tab on the end because that will show me exactly where I want to line it up on my card. So I'm going back to that Candied Apple Red and then a little bit of the Broken China just to finish off those edges. And now you can see that will sit right down in that corner. And I'm just trying to decide which way I like the sky the best. And I think I like it like that, so I can go ahead and pop this up on my card. And you'll kind of see once I place this down, it's kind of nice having that little tab on the end because I can place my grassy borders right on that tab. But again, you don't have to do that. You can just cut this out completely. So I placed plenty of 3D foam tape around the back, and we're going to line that up in that lower left-hand corner. And you can see now that that stencil has dimension to it, which I think is kind of fun. So with the Cilantro Lawn Fawn cardstock, this is a nice heavy weight. This is a 100-pound. I'm going to go back to those rectangles, that same rectangle that we used before, and I'm going to cut a couple of pieces of this because I want to die cut a few of my grassy borders. And those are from Lawn Fawn as well. So let's go ahead. I placed a piece of cardstock on each end. You could certainly just do one long panel and cut this down, but I decided I didn't want to waste some of my cardstock. I can be a little bit stingy with it sometimes. So I thought this would use up a little bit less of it. So I placed a little panel on each end. That'll give me that nice stitch border on 3 sides of each of these grassy borders. Going back to that Lawn Fawn set, and I'm going to line up a couple of these borders. And I want one a little bit taller than the other one. And then I'll again run those through the die cutting machine. To give these a little bit more interest, I'm grabbing the Rustic Wilderness ink and another small blending brush, and I'm just going to blend some of that darker ink up from the bottom and sort of leave a little highlight of that lighter cilantro color at the top of each of these borders. Now, what you will see when I go to put this larger border on the card, it wasn't really quite tall enough, but it's okay. We're going to work with what we have, and it will be just fine because that lower border is going to cover it. So there you can see it wasn't quite long enough, but it's going to work out perfectly because we have that smaller border which will cover that little corner for us. So I'm going back to that foam tape, but I'm only going to put it on the side that isn't overlapping that rainbow. So this will lay nice and flat, and then I'll put glue on the opposite side. So I'm using my Cricut weeding tool just to remove the backing on these. We'll put a little bit of that Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and then we can go ahead and attach this to the card. So I'm just going to raise it up a little bit so I cover that white area. And then let's put this lower, smaller border on. Now, I did just add glue at first, but I thought I needed a little bit of that foam tape right along that right-hand corner, just so that it would not get crushed as it was going through the mail. So I'm going to put a couple little strips of that 3D foam right here in this lower right-hand corner, remove the backing, and then attach this. So you can see how cute this is now with that rainbow popped up. It gives it a little bit more dimension. And now I'm just trying to select the sentiment that I wanted. I really love all of these, and I wasn't exactly sure where I even wanted to place it because any of these would be cute. So I decided to go with May the Luck of the Irish be yours. And then we'll do another one of those sentiments on the inside of the card. So I'm going to place this in the upper left-hand corner. Now, I did not know where I was going to be placing the sentiment when I started creating this card. So you certainly could put your sentiment or stamp your sentiment on that background before you attach the rest of your pieces. But in order to make sure I would get a nice crisp stamping, I put a couple little shims of cardstock in that upper left-hand corner right behind it and went ahead and stamped it. So it worked out fine. But again, you could do that ahead of time if you know where your sentiment is going to be. I've got a standard A2 size card base. I've placed it in my MISTI stamp positioner. And then here's where I'm going to grab that other sentiment that says Happy St. Patrick's Day. So let's go ahead and lay out the scene. I've got the little pot of gold. We can go ahead and attach that. And then I'm going to sprinkle those little 4-leaf clovers all around the grassy borders. So I laid those out, and then I'm just going to glue each of those down. We'll come in a little bit and add a little bit of glitter and sparkle to these. And I think it would be fun to add a little gem to the center, but I am doing this as a male for a male, and I didn't want it to get too sparkly, although I am adding a little bit. But I think some little green gems or gold gems in the center of these 4-leaf clovers would be really cute. So I saved 2 of my little 4-leaf clovers for the inside of the card. And then I glued those in, and I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle with that Wink of Stella clear glitter pen. And I added that to all of these 4-leaf clovers. And then I also added it to my little coins in the pot of gold. Now, at this point, I wanted some more gold. And I thought I really need to add some more shimmer to this, a little bit more gold. So I just tore up some pieces of scrap copier paper, and I'm masking off everything except for the rainbow. And then I've got some gold watercolor ink, which I will list and link for you down below, as well as all the other products I'm using today, or something similar to the products I'm using today. And then I added a little bit of water to this. This is a watercolor ink. And I spritzed it with a little bit of water, and then again with that small paintbrush, I'm going to spatter the entire rainbow. And I have to say, this made all the difference in the world. It really just brought this card to life. I really love it. And I don't think it takes away from the masculine look that I was going for, and I'll show you that a little bit closer when I show you the finished card. So let's go ahead and attach this to the front of our card. And we will have a little white border around the edges, so I'm just going to center this. And here's our finished card with a little Happy St. Patrick's Day, and then we've got this beautiful sky, and look at the shimmer on that rainbow. I just love that so much. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.